Hi guys, Scott here from Outlaw Garage. A couple of weeks ago we caught up with Alex and his Porsche Outlaw 356 Roadster. This is part 2 of the video. Hope you enjoy it. So here we are again with Alex. We're going to have a look at these two beautiful notchbacks. T6 and a very special T5 over in the corner. And we'll get to that one in a moment because that one is a very special car. Okay, so we've got a double black car.
Yeah, double black, so black with black.
That was originally
ivory with tan. So the car was originally, I think it was delivered in California. And when we got the car, really original. So body was just beautiful on it, but the paint sort of started to degrade a little bit. Interior was really original. Again, just one of those things where when you drove the car, it felt really great. And if you've ever driven a 356, or for that matter, most classic cars, the difference between a really good driving car and a really bad driving car can either, if it's your first experience in classic car driving, can make or break it and say, oh my God, this thing wants to kill me, versus, oh, okay, I actually get this and this actually makes sense. And this is one of those cars where you sort of say it's at the really, hey, okay, this is how these cars are meant to drive. And if anyone's ever looking for a car to sort of say, oh, that's the way it should drive, I generally throw them in that car or an A model, which they're very similar in the way that they actually feel, because they shift nicely. The engine's nice, it's smooth, it does all those things, it's the right balance in the steering. All those things that if they're not right, can actually mean that you're just fighting the car and feeling like this is just an awful experience. So yeah, really lovely car, really original in the body, painted black with black leather interior with headrests. Also it's got air conditioning in it as well, so the air conditioning makes it a little bit nicer as well. It's certainly in the summer months.
Yeah, when we hop inside, we'll take a look at that, because that's a nice addition to the car, especially that black on black.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And look, the nice thing about the notchback is that the notchback is actually a nicer sort of more spacious interior, purely and simply because...
I guess because you don't get that swoop.
Well,
down,
you haven't got the fly line. If you look at the coupe that's in the back, you can see the difference in the rear windows, but you can also see the different heights of the rear window here, but also where it meets in the rear compared to a lot steeper engine bed on the other. Now, these are both T6B cars, but you can kind of start to see the differences between those rear profiles. And what that does is mean that if you did have someone sitting in the back seat, you've got a lot more headroom in here. But also when you're doing a little bit of like a head check or anything, it actually feels a lot more airy in the cabin as well. So yeah, it's one of those interesting anomalies of the difference between the notch and the coupe.
Yeah, and there you see with the coupe the line, and then with a notch it's very different. Okay, so this is version 1 of the air conditioning kit that you did, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So this was kind of the first incarnation of putting air conditioning in. And so it's got a slightly, well, as you can see, it's quite a large compressor that's sitting in the engine bay, which is quite in your face. The next version we did, which is actually on the white car next to it, you can see it's far less obtrusive, and if you might be a bit harder to see.
Oh yeah,
so yeah, you can kind of see this is the compressor, a lot smaller, a lot less visible in the engine bay. The engine bay of a 356 is obviously pretty easy to spot something that's not the same.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Isn't it?
It is. It's a lot different. So one, it doesn't draw too much power. The other one, this one, a little bit bigger bracket, so it's not a bit more ungainly, if you want to call it that. Doesn't really have an effect on the power of the car though, so they don't draw and provide a lot of drag, but it's just a nice thing to have.
And is it cold, or does it just take the heat out?
No, it's cold. It's cold out of the vents. Slightly different vent system that we've got in this car to the white car. So the vent system is sort of kind of a little bit located under the dash. This one's in the dash. So so again, a little bit of iteration there over time as to...
and then what do you do for the condenser?
Condenser actually is in the front, so it's up near in your wheel well, so you can still fit in a spare wheel, and again a little bit smaller unit.
Open up the front,
so it does. It's one of those things where, especially in an older car, it's one of the drawbacks, especially if you're partners in the car and they're saying it's bloody hot, and let's take the newer car that's got the air conditioning.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
I think we all have. It just makes it a little bit nicer. So.
But it's nice to see the difference between the version 2 and then the version 1. However, if they're not really pulling, that much power, and you're not hurtling around in this, you're going for a nice casual drive,
exactly,
enjoying the day.
No, exactly right. And that's the nice bit about it. If it makes the car that little bit nicer to use in more weather,
I think it's a brilliant touch.
You're more likely to use it in actually a hotter day or a colder day or whatever. It also means that you've got additional cooling and ventilation with windows up rather than having to have everything wound down as well. So
Here we go in the coupe. We've got the ball vents here for the air conditioning.
And what we've also done is the heater mechanism or your fan mechanism up on the dash above the oil pressure gauge or your clock, depending on what you...
Yeah.
We've actually rigged up the air conditioning system off that, so you don't have any additional switches.
Okay.
The Auto Elect was clever enough to actually rig it up off that. So inside it actually looks pretty factory.
So here we go. This one's got a massive condenser.
You can see it's all hidden under here.
Yeah.
So it does take up a bit more space, which is sort of not ideal. But again, for the most part, because you've got so much room, especially in a notchback behind the rear seats, that's where you're generally putting your luggage and anything else if you're going away. You're not really using under here that much. It also still allows you to have a full spare in the car. So yeah, that was the first iteration of what we did. The second one has a slightly smaller, more compact condenser.
Take a look at that one?
Yeah, sure, let's do that.
Okay, so then on version 2, we've got the condenser down here in the, I guess, the spare wheel area.
Yeah, it still allows you to actually, the way that it's angled still allows you to put a spare in there, which is great.
Oh, so it still fits in?
It still fits. It's pretty tight. If you had anything bigger than a 4.5-inch spare, then you're probably going to be struggling a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously, because of the size of the tyre, when you go to a bigger wheel, bigger tyre.
Yeah, but it's nice to see the change from version 1, version 2,
and then you can see
evolution.
so you can see where it plumbs up through here too. It actually means that you've got then the forced air through your demister as well. So it actually allows you to play with the control vents of being up or down too.
Okay.
So big improvement, both in space, but also with what its location and the way it's all plumbed in. So
and I guess because the air's not coming from too far, it goes straight there. It's not passing anything that's hot or warm, is it?
Exactly
so
right.
you're getting as much efficiency out of it as you can do.
Yep. And again, really cool. It doesn't allow you, it doesn't sort of encroach then on this area, which again, you're not really using that much of, but it just keeps a little bit more in keeping when you certainly open up the bonnet or the boot for the first time.
Yeah.
So
we've covered the black one, which, to be perfectly honest with you, I've actually fallen in love with, because there's just something about that which I really like. I don't know if it's the colour, the lights and the extra luggage rack on the rear. It has very much a more European continental feel. I do really like that. I won't be showing too many people the video because otherwise my pockets may burn. However, the red one.
The red car, yeah. Really interesting car. So the Notchback only ran for 3 years, from late 59 all the way through to 62. And this is actually the third car ever made. So car number 1 and 2 haven't been seen of, and arguably was a works car, so a Porsche works car, and is written on the Cardex that way. So it was essentially one of call it maybe a development car. And so it's car number 3, chassis number 2, 00003. And it's the oldest notchback still known in the world today. I think the next one is car 5 or car 7 from memory. There's notchback registry, and that's something that's kind of unique and kind of cool.
Yeah, very much so.
So yeah, this car we purchased a long time ago, and it was due to be restored, and we just never got around to it. And then eventually we pulled it out and did the work, and it is as it is today. It really hasn't been shown in too many places. We haven't sort of taken it to any Concours or anything like that. It drives really nicely. It's a really lovely car to drive on the road. Differences for those that don't know between a T5 and T6, you've got more of a rounded bonnet versus the flatter bonnet.
More of a smile.
More of a smile. And then on the rear grille, on the T6 you've got a twin grille, on the B you've only got the single grille. So otherwise the profile of the car between the T5 and T6 is actually almost identical, so you can't really see the difference between the two. But yeah, finished in a ruby red with tan interior. It's just a really interesting and unique car in so much as that it was one of the first, originally, as I said, built in early 60, and then it was sold to the sales director of Porsche Deutschland, so Porsche Germany, who had that for a couple of years, as a personal car, I'd assume. And then from there it was actually sold to Vasek Polak, so the dealer in America, and it was then sold over there in about 1963. A little bit unknown as to from the history of the car from that point until when we bought the car, but it is what it is, and it's a unique and interesting car. And as I said, the notches are somewhat unknown, not that well known, because they are a little bit unique in their body shape, being that they all started as cabriolets, and then the factory decided to create a new model in the notchback, being that they actually welded hardtops to it. And so as a result, that's where the new model came from, and as I said, only ran for 3 years.
So, so what kind of condition was it in when you actually picked up the car? Because, like you said, restored it, but to be honest with you, it looks magnificent. Like the interior looks.
Yeah, it needed a fair bit of work. It needed some work. So the car had to have a lot done to it, but a lot of the cars do. There's not many of these things that. They were primed with a water-based undercoat. I mean, these cars were never meant to last this long. And
they went through a bit of an unloved period, didn't they?
Of course.
And like everything, it has its time, doesn't it?
100%. So some cars, like this one, survived a lot better than, say, this one. But when you do them properly, prepare them properly, then you've actually got a car that hopefully is going to last a lot longer as well. So they're different cars. We've converted this one to 12-volt, put air conditioning in it. This one's, father's personalised it with, the driving lights, with the luggage rack, and done the things to try and personalise to make the car yours. You've almost got the chance to sort of deliver the car to yourself, or reorder the car when you restore a car. This one we left pretty original as to the way it came from the factory, being that it's such an early car. We obviously converted this car to right-hand drive as well, the black car. So there's a whole range of things. Which car you're more likely to jump in? Well, you're probably going to jump in the black car, because you've created all those creature comforts and bits and pieces in the car that are special to you. So. And certainly that's done a lot of mileage. That car's gone to New Zealand to do 356 down unders. It's done quite a bit of mileage actually, that car, because it's actually practical. So it's amazing. You make the car practical, you tend to use it a bit more.
The black on black is an easy standout when you look at it, but the interior on this number 3 shell, we call it, the red exterior and that brown tan interior is absolutely gorgeous. And that looks like it'll age really, really well.
Yeah, it's almost like an old leather jacket.
That's what I was
you can say, I can just feel comfortable in this when you get in. It sort of feels a little bit worn, it's not too new. And even when you find, especially with these seats, not many people know, when the original coupe seat that was designed with Porsche, they had a huge amount of actual doctors that were working with Porsche to design the seat.
I didn't know that.
Didn't you? So my dad tells the story. I remember him telling me, but that's why actually you could jump out of a 356 seat and actually feel quite fresh, because the actual way that they're sprung and the construction of them is very much part of the overall comfort and suspension of the vehicle. And so when you get a well reconditioned seat, versus, again, we talked about before, cars overall that are well put back together and those that aren't. The same with the seating. You can have a seat that's been resprung far too hard, and again, you sit too high, you don't sit in the seat, you sit on top of it. Same sort of thing. So if they've been done correctly, then you say, I feel comfortable in this car, this is the way it was meant to be. If it's actually you're sitting on top of it and it's too hard, it's either been oversprung or it has been recreated correctly in the restoration process. So really interesting, and one of those, again, anomalies of restoring old cars, be it a Porsche or anything else, and the way that it can be a really nice experience, or it can be maybe a not so nice experience if those things haven't been considered in the restoration process.
Yeah, and definitely like nowadays where you can go on longer drives, the tours with clubs and things like that. It makes a lot of difference, it being comfortable and then enjoying the experience in these like wonderful old cars.
They are, and they are wonderful old cars. They should be, it is, I mean, this is obviously a direct, different car to your car, where, when you've got cars on narrower tyres, higher tyres, they ride a whole bunch different, and that's everyone for each of their own. But it was interesting how many times you go back to a car that's on 4.5-inch rubber, and you can actually feel the car move, and you say, this is actually the way that they're designed to actually move around. In a modern car, it's all about grip and lateral mechanical grip, and that's different. But then these cars weren't designed to actually be built that way. And when we built our 356 race cars, as soon as we start stickier tyres on it, it actually starts to bend some of the actual suspension components, and so you need to reinforce those, because you've got a lot more load going through these components that weren't actually meant to be, weren't built for those things.
And the feel of the car definitely dictates your driving style.
Totally, yeah, absolutely.
And the pleasure and the experience of where you're going. It's all about the journey. It's all about the time that you spend in it. And definitely that, you get that feel from the car.
Totally.
So there we go again. We've been down to Alex's amazing man cave. Absolutely brilliant. Caught up with a couple of notchbacks, one very original and one with a few little tweaks and modifications, but two very, very nice cars. So chuffed to bits with those. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe. We'll catch you later, guys. Thank you so much. See ya.